So, the other week, whenever we posted a video talking about the changes of the 151 to 20 army lists for Nords and Wadroon, I said that weird. I don't know why I said that weird, but we just played a tabletop simulator game.
Yeah.
Using all of the knowledge that we've accumulated, and now we're going to talk through what we thought about it. Now, I know that Brandon has something he wants to say, but I want to start it off with an important question.
Yes.
I think, two important questions that I want to ask. One, did ranged feel suitably nerfed so as to be its intent? The intent is that ranged in 2.0 becomes a sideline kind of support for the main melee. Do you feel that that goal was achieved?
So I will conditionally say it was slightly reduced in it was more vulnerable. It was as impactful in dealing damage, but it was more vulnerable. So what I mean by this is I had to work a little bit harder and get into threat range to do damage, but especially when I got to the 8-inch range, I did so much damage on the way back. So I feel, unlike 151, that I couldn't just sit in the back and hit you with literally no fear of reprisal. There's when you get them in the range where they still shoot, they still are devastating. And if you can't get a charge off and you're stuck in that 8-inch range, they're doing more damage. So I think they're very impactful, but they're slightly more vulnerable, which I think is better. But it does feel like if the intent is ranged units aren't so devastating, feels like some barrages need to come down a little bit.
Okay. Now, second question. Do you feel that broken and by extension duels are more impactful in 2.0? And now, yes. I want to take a moment to reiterate.
Yeah.
Iterate, because I haven't said it at all yet. But these are hot takes. We've played one effectively game of 2.0. So these are hot off the.
Oh wait,
first
do you want to answer the first one, or are you gonna? Am I gonna answer both of them? Because I would like to know your.
I'm asking the questions.
Okay,
here.
Okay.
Broken duel. How do you feel?
I feel broken was very bad for me. Sorry, broken is definitely more devastating because I missed at least one heal trigger, if not more, dealing around with trying to get my guys unbroken. So like it had material impact.
Okay. All right. So now,
if I would have had the one round where I had to unbreak instead of heal, I think I would have had another stand and the Valks would have lived.
Okay. All right. So now that I've asked those two questions, I'm going to go over. So the end result of the game was Nords victorious.
Yep.
I did concede a little early because I thought it was clear that I was going to be tabled.
Yep.
I had just managed to barely tie up.
I don't think I would catch up on points. So I agree with you. If I won, it would be like you said, we would trade out a few things. My last Jotnar would be the last one standing. I agree with that.
So we played 6 turns. On the 6th, at the end of the 6th turn or end of the 5th turn, I had just managed to tie it up, so it was 7-7. We played Maelstrom. Yep. I only had 2 units at the time that I called it, which is part of the way through the 6th turn. So we tied it up on the 5th. I lost basically everything. I did do damage in return, but at the end of the game, he had 2 Mountain Jotnars and 3 stands of Bow Chosen left, and I had 3 stands of Warbred, 1 with 1 wound left, and 3 stands of Blooded, 1 with 2 wounds left. Overall, I took massive amounts of casualty from shooting, in which I was never really in a position to counter, as evidenced by the fact that he had 3 of his initial 4 or 5 stands of Bow Chosen. 4. So I only actually killed 1 Standear Bow Chosen.
Yep.
And
you killed the whole regiment.
Well, yes, but you had 2 units of Bow Chosen.
Yep.
And the unit that I primarily focused on, I barely did any damage to because you out-threaded me at range, and I wasn't able to get any units into actual threat range. So you were able to shoot with impunity.
Yep.
And then for duels, for broken and duels, I feel like that entire scenario played out exactly as how it would have in 151. The sequence that played out is I challenged you to duels.
Yep.
You said no. and then you activated the character and rallied, which is exactly how it would have gone in 151. You would have lost the heal in 151 because it would have consumed your action to rally with the character.
Yeah.
So the character wouldn't have been able to heal. So I do not think that I got value out of the duels that I challenged you to, because every time that you said no, I could not then press to take any advantage from your newly broken status before you could easily recover the broken status.
Okay, so one thing I will say is a threat perceived is a threat achieved, and you made me on the last round, like I started sequencing Volva higher up to try to get it to do stuff. So I agree with you, but I was like, crap, I have to I had to change the way I was assembling my stack because I wanted to try to get some value out of it. Is that enough? Probably not, but it did change. Like, instead of being in the last 3 cards, I was moving it up and up because
so that you could rally. But so here's the thing. That might have been a mistake on your part, because if you had left the Volva at the bottom of your stack,
I was trying to get a heal to get guys back, because even if I was just like unbreaking them, you were still doing enough damage that you were winning that.
So I challenge you to a duel. Yeah. You refuse. You get broken. You activate the Valkyries. They rally, fight, and then at the bottom of the stack, your Volva heals. So you didn't need to move the Volva to the top of that might have actually been hurting you, preventing you from using the heal.
Yeah, but I was,
and the benefit that you got out of that was inspiring. So yeah, all in all, I did not see in this game ranged as being any less potent. In fact, at 16 inches, you were making more attacks than the Bow Chosen would have at 16 inches previously, and then at 8 inches, you were making less than they would have. But still, like the 16-inch threat did feel like a whole lot when I don't have anything that can make that distance, that can cross that distance.
Yeah.
You know, if you're at 16 inches, I have a bunch of infantry with 5 move. I have my Raptor Riders got intercepted by Raiders, so I wasn't able to get in with you with that because you won some priority rolls. I lost my Queen and 5 Raptors. I wasn't able to do my primary strategy of giving Warbread Fanatic and then having them burn out and make 10 to 16 inch charges.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I feel like because you try to prop up the slingers, I think it hurt you because you lost your ability to do that 16 inch, which covers the range. Yeah. And
yeah, there was one big turn where sequencing super mattered. I was in combat with his Raiders, and I had an Apex Predator threatening Bow Chosen, and I had veterans threatening Valkyries. I can't remember if the veterans were threatening the Valkyries or they were already in combat with the Valkyries at this point. I sequenced that poorly because I did not consider him activating the Raiders first. I thought he would have gone for Bow Chosen or to kill the Apex that was 1 inch away from them, or the Valkyries to get some damage in on the veterans in front of them.
Yeah.
And then when the Raiders activated and they wiped out my Raptors, the pretty big swing. And then I was behind on the rest of the activation. So the classic problem that I talk about a lot on stream, we haven't made a YouTube video about it yet, but if you lose priority roll, you lose initiative all the way down the activation stack, and it can be devastating.
So the heal change was massive. Valkyrie would have lived through all the damage you put at me if it was still heal 2. So I would have also had more bodies if I could have saved the additional heals that I had carry over. But since I didn't have 3, I only had 2, they just evaporated. So I feel the doubling down on healing is not so good. I feel I picked the worst artifact. I went buck wild with just picking like I'm looking at my list and I just picked all the worst artifacts.
So I want to ask a question, and you might not know this off the top of your head, but this is kind of like a response to a previous video we did where we did talk about items. Did you use any items that you pointed out as particularly interesting in that video in this game?
So I did use no.
Okay. All right. Cool.
So I guess I said I think I did say the God Sphere is kind of cool because like it doubles down on impact. So, but No, so the things I didn't do is I didn't take Coil the Serpent, which would have, if I changed my masteries on my Volva, would have given the regiment Evasion 2, which I think would have been super impactful. I some reason gave my Conager figurehead of the Nalglafar, which is when performing a ranged attack, that you reroll. I force the enemy to reroll successful hits for 20 points. Do you know what I could have got instead? I could have got the Horn of Hajolgar, which is rapid fire. So each one causes an additional hit. Now imagine if I got like, I don't know, a nominal amount of extra hits against your T-Rex. Maybe I would have done 2 damage.
You would have completely annihilated it. Yes. You would have completely annihilated it. Yeah,
20 points.
Because in one volley he did 10 damage, folks.
Yeah. So the God Spear, I feel like I got one charge. I feel I rolled really bad on my impact hits. So like I want to say the God Spear, I still feel Brutal 2 plus 3 impact is still impactful, but I do feel that like my the Broken Blade probably would have been better on Jarl for getting stuck in because having Cleave 1 or Rose of the Red, like I do. Yeah, I there's things. You warned me that going all in on Volva for Arcane was a trap. One thing you asked previously is there still the mastery when you have max Arcane that counts as level 1 tactics? That is no longer. Yeah, that's gone. But I do feel like maybe if I would have went Arcane 1, because I feel Arcane 2 less for scaling unless I'm doing it offensively, not huge. Tactics level 1, the Indomitable actually would have been important. I would have to go through other stuff. Maybe if I got combat level 1 more wound would make me want to tussle more. I don't know, but like, man, getting Evasion 2 on those Valks I think would have been game changing.
Yeah, Evasion 2 and Indomitable on those Valkyries. I wouldn't have killed them by the end of the game.
Yeah.
I don't have the attack output. I went with a 3-chant list, which the idea was because chancing is in some ways so much easier in 2.0, I thought that I would have less problems with 3 cults. The problem ended up being that at the end of once the Matriarch Queen died, whose point was to be Fanatic, or to give Fanatic, so that I could activate Fanatic charges quickly. Once she died, then most of my chance became wasted chance, and it became hard to set up chance because I had War, Death, and Famine. All my characters that brought conquest tokens also died pretty quickly. I had a Predator with 3 stanza slingers. The slingers were supposed to be boogeymen in 2.0 because of their output. The Bow Chosen are far more of a boogeyman. The highlight of the game for me was when my slingers made 5 hits and the Bow Chosen saved all 5 of them on their evade of 2. So that was cool. So did the slingers actually ever force a resolve test like this entire game? They did. Yeah. Did it like do anything considerable? So I did like 7 damage,
something like that,
all together with my slinger Predator unit.
I think if you watch the 1 or 2 damage
compared to the Bow Chosen, who just completely ripped through everything. They did 1 resolve damage, Sage Money says in Twitch chat.
That's what I thought.
Powerful. That means that's so good. Torrential Fire ripped off, and I got 4 total attacks, like hits from that.
I think that was the one.
I was only down to like 1 stand at that point. So yeah, I just even though I had the range advantage, I couldn't press it for anything. Like not having AP, I guess, doesn't matter in this case, but it does feel weird that it doesn't have AP. I did the thing where I chant Conquest, so I move forward 10 inches, and then I shoot, and then I move back 3.5 inches to try to like kite, but 16 inches is enough range where that doesn't do anything. And then eventually he got in mid range or effective range and just annihilated me. Warbred.
Wait,
go ahead.
Jump back. I think one thing that was impactful and it wasn't obvious to me is one is obscure happens way more often, and I think we were both like unobscured sniping each other, and then I moved into the woods, which was by far the best play because when you shot me, you reduced your number of shots, and I had...
No, there was no point where I was actually obscured.
When I thought there was one turn when I moved in here.
The only time that it would have been obscure, like obscuring would have came up, is when you decided to move into it and thus negate it. So like at no point in the entire battle were we actually obscuring. Did obscuring come up? It comes up way less than before.
Yep.
Because it's per regiment, not per stand. So
and I think I actually had obscuring, and I solved it by moving 6. Right.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. You were like, "Hey, am I obscured this time?" And because I was only down to 2 stands, you didn't have an angle from the out. Because I had killed one. If you had one more stand, you actually would have been able to draw.
Correct.
Without being obscured. But then you just moved into the forest and thus could see through it. Yeah. So yeah, obscuring never came up except for forcing you to move instead of aim that one time.
Yep.
And I mean, considering that you only needed to do 4 points of damage, I'm not necessarily certain that you needed to even do that because you still would have been making 13 attacks.
So the reason it was good is because it allowed me to be here, and I had Valks here. So it let me draw into the side when I did some damage to the...
annihilated a unit of veterans as well, just... got flank shots to even ignore their shield. Veterans, they didn't feel that tough to me, and they didn't have any. I knew they wouldn't have any damage output. They only have 5 attacks, clash 3, but no cleave
and no flurry.
I did have flurry though.
Oh, you did.
But the flurry ended up being a waste of 25 points, effectively, because the turn that I charged, I had shock, and shock.
Oh, that's the one where all your abilities were stepping on each other, so you basically had a bunch of chance and things you paid for, and you were only that's the hard part.
I paid 25 points for flurry, and then the one time they ever attacked in the game, they charged with famine on, so they had shock. So base clash 3 goes up to clash 4, re-rolling 6s because double inspire. So the flurry. I mean, maybe I rolled some 5s and the flurry helped there, but definitely just does not feel like 25 points. I probably should have gone for the champion and gotten up to 6 attacks per stand.
Yeah.
3 extra attacks does feel pretty good.
It's very hard because I feel like if you didn't have that and it sequenced a little different, you would have been like, man, I wish I had the boost of flurry to keep me in it. And that's the hard
if I rolled 12 5s, I'd be like, oops.
Yeah. But if you
needed flurry
and didn't have the full set of chance, you would have wished you had like something stable to look on. That's the hard part about chance is when the Rube Goldberg machine hits.
Well, veterans are guaranteed. Well, I guess mine aren't because mine were war veterans.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Mine were war veterans, so I couldn't. This is like the first time I've used war in like 2 years. Like I used war the first like few games of Conquest and realized that defensive abilities that fall off at the end of the turn aren't super great. And now that all chance fall off at the end of the turn, it's like I don't even have the resolve part of the war chant to fall back on. I was going for it because there's a cool thing that you can do if you fanatic the veterans with the queen. No, actually, that works better on blooded. But anyways, if you get to war with fanatic tier 3, you get counterattack.
So,
and I thought that would be pretty funny.
So I have 2 questions. One is, you kind of mentioned this before. You previously have been only going with 2 chants, tribes, whatever.
Cults.
Yeah, so cults, yeah, sorry. You were going to try 3 because some of the changes to things. Do you think you should have just stuck with 2?
I probably should have just stuck to 2. Every time I had war tokens, I was like, wow, these could be death tokens and I could be doing something useful. And honestly, I need to play a game and actually do the Warbred missile. And I would like to get value out of slingers. Like, that would be great. I was not expecting to not get values out of slingers against Bow Chosen.
I was way more scared of that matchup than it worked out. To go back, the one turn the Warbred worked, right? Like you ate a Jotnar, boom, right?
I did eat a Jotnar, yes.
So if you could have it for 4 damage or whatever, like if you could have kept that missile alive, I think this would have looked very different. If you could have just been launching them at my other units.
Here's what made the missile plan fall apart. Because this is Maelstrom and you can score on turn 1, I wanted to score on turn 1. So I threw my Matriarch Queen in the Raptors 16 inches forward and then reformed for another inch and a half to get into the zone on one of the flank pieces. Thus, I completely overextended myself and opened myself up to all the pain that followed. What I should have done is had my entire army on the board edge until everything was in, and then I could Warbred missile. Chat, Sage Money says Jotnar are cheaper than Warbred, though. He raises an excellent point. My Warbred killing your Jotnar is to be expected because my Warbred are 20 points more expensive. Or wait, are Ice Jotnars 170 or 190?
Sorry, which one? Ice Jotnars?
Or sorry, Mountain Jotnar.
170.
Okay, so I had a 50 point more expensive unit. I should hope that it should kill you fairly trivially.
Especially when you have
and it even cost me damage to myself to do so, though. So thank you, Sage Money, for putting it into perspective. Yeah. The one good thing that the Warbred did was not actually that great of a thing.
My second question was going to be, did you like the Warbred? And you sort of answered that. So the one thing I noticed, and I think I'm going to ask a question, and I think Sage has just answered it, is do you think if I stripped all my magic items or most of my magic items and upgrades, and I upgraded one of my Mountain Jotnars to a Sea Jotnar or maybe an Ice Jotnar, do you think that would have been better for me?
I don't think so. I think having the choice of 3 different activations, like having some of those items and masteries and stuff is good. Having the choice of 3 different regiments on the field when you draw a card is good. It means that they can screen for each other. So if you have 2 Mountain Jotnars in a row, one of them can take a charge and die, and then the one behind it can just charge in revenge, in response. And you can do things like that. Or you can put a Jotnar on each flank, like you kind of did.
Yeah.
And then set up multiple threats, and then put your Jotnar card at the top of the stack, and then no matter which one your opponent responds to, you can respond on the other side. So 3 cards beats 2 and 1 card, in my opinion. Even if you traded some of the less effective items, I feel like you could find a better spend for those things.
Yep. Every tactic one, I had tactic 1 on Jarl and Conacher. I feel that made 15 points back. I feel it two or so resolves a game. I feel that's impactful. Like you said,
2 fails into passes. Like you survived with 1 wound several times because of that stuff.
Yep, and that's so I agree with you. I feel that while the Jotnars, the specialty Jotnars are better priced.
They're fancy.
I just feel they're too much unless you really skimp on everything else, which that might be a strategy. I just don't know if it is because things arrive late. I don't know if there's as much support. I feel like I should just take my points. I should go back and kind of listen to the things I said and you said in the video we talked about. I tried to buck our own advice, and all I did is
surprised me.
Yeah. Hey, I like to acid test. I don't even know if that's a real word. Our advice to make sure, and you know what?
That's true.
The advice was better than what I tried and experimented with here. So that's good. Good job, us.
Yes. All right. So that being said, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching our stream. Thanks for watching our video because we haven't stopped recording on that yet. Nope. We at Table It Gaming will see you next time. Now, don't forget at the eShop.para-bellum.com. Use code TABLEIT, TABLEIT, to get 10% off your Conquest purchase.
And join in the game, join the powerful Jotnars, join on the Warbred, or one of the many other great factions, and hang out in their Discord.
Bye. Bye.